Hello Saints, welcome in for another midweek video. I want to talk a little bit today about standing our ground or holding our place. I was thinking of the story in Numbers of when Moses sent out the spies, and of course Caleb and Joshua came back and they gave a good report. As a matter of fact, Caleb said, let's go up at once and occupy because we're able to overcome it. And then the other guys who were the shrinking back version, they said, oh, no, we can't do that. These inhabitants are big, they're tall. And they made this statement: we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers. And this is interesting. And so we seemed to them. We seemed like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. Now, how would they know that the Nephilim would see them as grasshoppers? The key is that they saw themselves as grasshoppers. What is a grasshopper mentality? What would describe a person or a group of persons who had a grasshopper mentality? It's seeing yourself lower and less capable than God has made you. It's deciding that God's not big enough or strong enough to use you, protect you, provide for you. That's a grasshopper mentality. Well, we already know that a lot of us followers of Jesus Christ are walking around today with a grasshopper mentality because we feel like we are less than. And I just want to tell you that God makes no mistakes. There was another guy, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there was another guy who had a grasshopper mentality. His name was Saul. Not Saul of Tarsus, but Saul the king, King Saul. It says there was a man of Kish, and his name was Saul. There was not a man among the people of Israel more handsome than he. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. He was taller and stronger than any of all the other people. And then we fast forward to 2 Samuel chapter 10. I'm sorry, 1 Samuel chapter 10. We do have two Samuels. I turned too far. And Samuel is looking for someone to anoint king, and he settles on Saul. And it says Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel near. The tribe of Benjamin was taken by Lot, which is where Saul was from. He says, but when they sought Saul of Kish, he couldn't be found. They're looking for this guy who's going to be anointed king. He couldn't be found, so they asked the Lord, where is he? Is there a man still to come? And the Lord said, behold, he has hidden himself among the baggage. And then they went and found him and took him from hiding. Now, don't forget that he was taller than anyone there. He stood head and shoulders above anyone else. And Samuel said to the people, I've always thought this was interesting. Do you see him whom the Lord has chosen? Let me just stop right there. Some of you think that A, God can't choose you and won't, A, or B, you think God chose the wrong person. I mean, he went and found this guy from out of hiding and anointed him as king and declared that he was the king. Don't think God doesn't know what he's doing. Well, here's Saul hiding. And they'll go get him and bring him out. And he says, there's none like him. Long live the king. That's Samuel, the great Samuel, the king. And then just a few pages later, we find this statement made about Saul. Samuel said to him, though you are little in your own eyes, are you not the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel. Little in, how many of you watching this video will admit between you and God that you are small in your own eyes. And by that I mean, back to our definition, that you see yourself less than and less capable than God has made you. You see yourself less than capable of achieving the mission that God has given you in the earth. Saul had the same problem. He became king. Maybe you'll become king. I don't know. But I contrast that with this guy that I've always admired, Shema. Way back when we were in South Louisiana, we had a softball team, and we named our softball team Shema, except we were ignorant enough that we called it Shema. And we never could win a ball game, and so our fans would cheer us on, Shema on you. That's another topic for another day. But Shema is one of the mighty men of David. He's 5th in rank. But listen to what happened to this guy. You may have never even heard of this guy. Shema, the son of Agi the Hararite. The Philistines gathered together at Lehi, where there was a plot of ground full of lentils, black-eyed peas if you wish. And the men fled from the Philistines, the men being the army of Israel. But Shema took his stand in the midst of the plot, and he defended it and struck down the Philistines, and the Lord worked a great victory. You say, how did one man defeat the Philistines? I don't know. But I do know it only happened because he did not have a grasshopper mentality. He stood his ground. He stood where he needed to stand. And he defended a plot of ground with lentils. You think, well, my goodness, why would he risk his life over a pea patch? Well, first of all, little things are important. And we need to remember that what we consider small and insignificant are still important things, and we need to be willing to stand our ground. Another lesson that we can learn from this is don't always follow the crowd. I mean, as soon as the Philistines showed up, everybody but Shema and probably his servant, they took a hike. We don't know where they went, but they went and hid somewhere. Don't always follow the crowd. But he understood that the plot of ground that the Philistines were coming after, which was a plot of lentils, it belonged to the Israelites. And therefore, if it belonged to the Israelites, it belonged to God. So this was God's ground. This was God's pea patch. It belonged to God's people. And the Philistines had an idea of a new truth. Now the truth was, this plot of ground belonged to the Israelites and belonged to God. The Philistines decided they had a new truth, and the new truth was it was going to belong to them. It was now their plot of ground. And Shema decided that he would stand on the truth, and the truth being that it belonged to God. Well, we know it belonged to God because how else could one man defeat the Philistines? And that's because he was standing his ground and protecting God's lentils. What does that mean to all of us? Hold on to what you got. Don't sacrifice the truth. Don't buy another truth. Hold on to the truth that is. And remembering that real truth is what God says and what God approves, not what we decide. Stand your ground where you are today. You are and will be faced with obstacles. You'll be faced with diversions. You'll be faced with distractions. And you'll have opposition as long as you are a follower of Jesus Christ. He said, you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So take your stand. Don't follow the crowd. Don't discount the small things. And don't buy another truth just because somebody made it sound really good. You have a good week, and then go out there and act like somebody. Good day.